Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be doing my September book haul. I have a lot of books. What's new? What's new? Nothing. Okay, here we go. I have a lot to talk about. As always, I'm going to start out with new releases, then I'll show you some backlist books, then I'm going to show you some classics, and then I've got some graphic novels and manga. Here we go. The first book that I'm going to show you is Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco, which is the third book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I'm so excited to read this one. I really loved the first two books in this series, and I made the executive decision to not read the arc because the ending changed in the final book. So I wanted to read the actual finished copy instead, and I actually talked to Carrie. I went to her event at Books of Wonder with Alexa from Alexa Loves Books. We talked with Carrie, and she said that she's glad that we decided to wait because the arc version was like her fourth draft, and this final copy is like her seventh draft, so she feels like the final copy is like a lot better than the arc was. Again, really glad with my decision. Really looking forward to reading this one. This one takes place on a cruise ship. It involves Harry Houdini, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Then I got a copy of Sadie by Courtney Summers, and this has a million stickers on it that I forgot to take off before the video, but thankfully they come off very easily. I got a copy of this at McNally Jackson, and I'm so glad that I did because they had some signed copies there, and I just finished reading Sadie the beginning of the week, I want to say, and I really loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite thrillers that I have ever read. Such a wonderful story. I love the podcast element. It was so cool. But anyway, you'll hear about that in my wrap up, but I definitely recommend this one if you're looking for a thriller for October. Then I've got Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. So excited to read this one. This is the next book that comes after Vicious, and it follows more adventures of Eli Ever and Victor Vale, and I'm so excited to get back into this world, to meet the new characters that she's going to be introducing. I believe there are two new female characters. I love Victoria's writing, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Then HarperCollins was kind enough to send me two books. The first one I cannot wait to read, and that is The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. I'm so excited about this. I really love The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. That was one of my favorite books of last year, and I have no doubt that this one will be one of my favorite books of this year. I already love Felicity as a character. She is Percy's younger sister. She's just so awesome, and she wants to be a doctor, and she's just totally defying social norms during the time period where this takes place, because it's definitely like it's in olden times, so people are not used to women asserting themselves and like having careers and stuff, but she is just like freaking awesome. I love her so much. Like I said, cannot wait to read this. I am so excited. They also sent me a copy of Damsel by Alana K. Arnold. This is a new fantasy novel. It's actually relatively short, so I feel like this will be a very quick read, and the cover is very pretty, but it is something that's supposed to kind of throw fairy tales on its head. I actually heard a synopsis of this from Monica from She Might Be Monica, because she had it on her TBR. It takes place in this world where a prince has to venture out into the Greylands, and he has to slay a dragon in order to save a damsel, and then that damsel has to become his bride. The girl like doesn't remember anything from before she was rescued. She just hears the prince tell her the story about how he is the one that slayed this dragon to like save her, pretty much, and it's just kind of supposed to throw fairy tales on its head. It's supposed to be like a very feminist story, so it definitely sounds like it's going to be interesting. I'm probably gonna wait to pick this one up until November because I'm kind of just reading like scary books in October. You know how it goes. But yeah, again, I just love this cover. It's really beautiful. Then I have two books that Simon & Schuster sent me, or three books rather. The first one being Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. This one actually is on my October TBR. It takes place in a town where they made a bargain with the devil in order to ensure their prosperity. So every time the blood moon rises, which is every 7 years, the town has to sacrifice their like strongest, most prosperous male in order to keep their prosperity going. So it sounds like it's going to be really interesting. It sounds like it's going to be very atmospheric. I really love this cover. Online, I for some reason thought the cover was just like black with these red rose petals, but when I got it, I was like, what? I wasn't expecting this. It's shiny and beautiful, and I love this like creepy tree that we have going on at the bottom. There's also the main like forest in here where they have to sacrifice the guy is called the Devil's Forest, which sounds awesome. Not like the whole sacrificing thing, but I just love anything that is like spooky and takes place in the woods. So I just feel like this is totally up my alley. They also sent me Fake Blood, which again is another one that I want to read in October because it follows a guy and a girl who get paired together for a project about Transylvania. The girl is obsessed with vampires, so the guy dresses up like a vampire because he wants to impress her, and then he finds out that she's a vampire slayer. And it just sounds like it's going to be adorable, and this is a graphic novel. It's a middle grade graphic novel. It sounds like it's going to be a very quick, cute, adorable read. I'm excited. And they also sent me Dry by Neal Shusterman. This is one that I'm so looking forward to reading. I really love Neal Shusterman's Scythe and Thunderhead books, so I'm really looking forward to reading more by him. And this is actually co-authored with his son, Jared. And this takes place in California. As you know, like there's kind of a water shortage going on there. You're only allowed to take showers for like a certain amount of time. They're very much into conserving water. And this book is basically a dystopian novel about what would happen if the taps finally just run dry and there just is no more water, what everything is going to descend into. And I have always felt like I was kind of over dystopian, but as soon as I read Scythe, I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So if there is any dystopian novel that I am going to read, it is going to be by Neal Shusterman, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've already heard a couple of great reviews about it, and I have no doubt that I'm gonna love it too, because like I said, I just really love Neal Shusterman and his writing style is phenomenal. Then Penguin Teen sent me a couple of books. So I have A Map of Days by Ransom Riggs, which is the fourth book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. That is a mouthful. I actually only read the first book within the series, but I did really enjoy it. I really liked all of the vintage photographs that were in it. I thought it was really, really cool. So I probably should catch up on it so that I can read this one. I believe this one comes out this month in October. It's a really, really beautiful book, and like, gosh, just everything about it is so nice. All the spine, it's so like old and vintagey looking. I'm excited. They also sent me Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. This is one that, again, I want to read in October. Very excited for it. It's a middle grade novel. Catherine Arden wrote The Bear and the Nightingale, so I'm really looking forward to reading her middle grade story. I think it's going to be really good. It's going to be very spooky. I talk more about it in my October TBR video if you're interested, and it is blurbed by R.L. Stine, which I just think is like the coolest thing ever. And then Penguin also sent me a copy of The World of Lore Dreadful Places. This is the third book within the Lore series of novels, and I'm very much looking forward to reading it. Again, this is like the perfect kind of October read. I feel like I went overboard with October books this month, but can't help myself. I just love them so much. I've been watching the show Lore on Amazon, and I really enjoy it, and there's actually new episodes of that coming as well in October, so there's like lots of cool lore things happening. Then Orbit Books was kind enough to send me a couple of things. The first one being Sisters of the Winter Wood. This is by Raina Rosner. This sounds like it's going to be really good. It's like a Russian-inspired fantasy novel, and it looks like there's actually a lot of poetry in it. I was flipping through it the day that it came in the mail, and first I was like, oh, it's going to take me a while to read, and then I was looking and I was like, oh, no, it's not. I'm going to read this so quick because like I said, there's so much poetry within it, so I'm really looking forward to reading that because I really like when authors are like clever with language, and I just feel like with that, the poetry set up within it, there's a good chance that it's going to be one of the ones that I end up loving. It takes place in a secluded town, and it follows a pair of sisters, and their mother has always warned them to beware of strangers. This like mysterious group of men shows up, and then one of the sisters ends up kind of falling under their spell, and then the other sister has to try to save her. Sounds like it's going to be really good and really perfect for like November. They also sent me a copy of Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. This book actually comes out November 13th, and it is a new fantasy novel following a girl who is a nobleman's daughter and has magic in her blood. She's the illegitimate daughter of a governor, and her mother was actually exiled, but she inherited the magic from her mother, and then her magic ends up catching the attention of the emperor's most feared mystics, and she has to use like every single ounce of her willpower to resist these cruel people and their agenda, and it says that if she fails, the gods themselves may awaken to punish everyone. I've heard really good things about it so far, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. They also sent me A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe by Alex Blight, and this is a book that I've been wanting to read ever since I heard Jess from Jess Reads Books talk about it on her channel. It's a sci-fi novel, and it sounds like it's going to be really amazing. It's about three people who are on a race against time to hunt down the greatest warship ever built. There are a lot of people who think that this ship is a legend. There are other people who think that the ship was destroyed, but it says that one thing is certain: whoever holds this ship will hold the fate of the universe in getting their hands. That sounds amazing. They also sent me a copy of Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is the first book in a series, and this is another one that I've been dying to read. This one I actually heard about from the Sword and Laser book club. I listened to their podcast and they read a different book every month, and this was the book that they read in August, and they both ended up really enjoying it, so I've been looking forward to reading it. But it is an Asian-inspired fantasy, and it takes place on an island where people have used magical jade in order to fend off any type of invasion on their island. And now the war has ended, and there are 4 siblings that are going to be kind of fighting one another to gain control of the city and the island, and also try to maintain the peace between clans. And it just sounds so good to me. Like, I'm so excited about this one. And then the last book that they sent me is Rosewater by Tade Thompson. They actually just released the cover recently for the second book too, and it's like just as beautiful as this one. But this is a sci-fi novel, and it takes place in this secluded town that exists like on the outskirts of this biodome. And pretty much everyone who's in this town is dying to get inside of this mysterious biodome because supposedly there are like magical healing powers within there. So they're all like kind of desperate to get inside. And it follows a guy named Caro, who is a government agent with a criminal past, and he is what is called a sensitive. So he can use like psychic powers to kind of navigate the insides of this biodome. Suddenly all of these sensitives keep being killed off, and then he has to do something in order to prevent a horrifying future. It just sounds like it's going to be a really interesting sci-fi novel. As you guys know, I love sci-fi that doesn't take place in space when I'm reading. I love watching sci-fi in space, but I love reading more like biological type sci-fi. So I think this sounds like something that I'm really gonna enjoy. Then I got The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart. This is a new release. I really like the cover, and I heard that it is supposed to be like very creepy. I was thinking it would be a good October read if I can get to it, because my TBR is so overwhelming already. So we'll see how that goes. But it looks really cool. I liked the premise a lot. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head at the moment. Just look it up on Goodreads if you're interested. Okay. Oh, I forgot to show this with the Simon books, but I also got An Arc of Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett, and I'm so excited to read this one. It is a young adult contemporary romance novel that takes place in Seattle in a hotel, and there's a reclusive author, and it sounds like it's going to be wonderful. And I really loved Jen's book Alex Approximately, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. And I love this cover. It's so beautiful. Then Quirk Books sent me 2 books this month. So I have Paperback Crush by Gabrielle Moss. This is very similar to Paperbacks from Hell, if you're familiar with that one that Grady Hendrix put out last year. That was like the history of horror books and covers and stuff, and this is the history of the series that I grew up on, pretty much, like Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High, and just all about those different covers and like the different things that went into publishing them. And it really sounds like it's going to be amazing. I would say that this is like one of the perfect gifts for the holiday season if you know someone who really liked those kinds of book series as well. Like, it has a very high nostalgia factor, and I think it's going to be really interesting to learn more about the books that really like made me into a reader and made me love everything that I love today. Also, the cover looks exactly like one of the books that I would have been drawn to in the library as a child, so I'm so excited to read this one. And it's also like full of color illustrations of all the covers. Just looks so good. And they also sent me Girl Squads by Sam Maggs, and this is a book that's all about different female friendships that had a big impact on the world. The tagline is actually 20 female friendships that changed history. So that sounds like it's going to be really good. Sam Maggs is such a wonderful person, and I love everything that she's written so far, and everything is always so female centric, which is like so nice. So I'm also really looking forward to reading her new one. Then I made a separate video about this, but I ended up picking up another copy of the Raven Boy series because Alexa got me new covers and I really love them. But anyway, I'm just going to show them quick because if you want to know more about them, you can watch my other video. So I have the Raven Boys, the Dream Thieves, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, and the Raven King. Then I got some more of the UK hardback editions of some epic fantasy series that I really like. So here we have The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch, which is the 3rd book in the Lies of Locke Lamora, in the Gentleman Bastard series. First book is The Lies of Locke Lamora. I also got The Wise Man's Fear, which is the 2nd book after The Name of the Wind in the Kingkiller Chronicle. And finally, The Last Argument by Joe Abercrombie, which is the 3rd book in the First Law trilogy. Then I got The Way Way of Kings Part 2 by Brandon Sanderson. I have the first part of this and I haven't wanted to start reading it until I have the second one in hand, because how do you stop reading a book in the middle of it? I don't know. So I figured that I needed this. I also got the really pretty UK paperback edition of City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is a new favorite book of mine. I really enjoyed it. I talked about it in a previous video if you want to hear my full thoughts, but it was so wonderful. It takes place in Edinburgh in Scotland and it is very spooky and it's just so Victoria Schwab. So good. I also got the UK paperback edition of Uprooted, which has become one of my favorite books of all time. So I've been like slowly collecting different pretty editions that I have seen of it. I love this one so much. It's blurbed on the top by Robin Hobb. It says enchanting in every sense, and I could not agree more. I also got a paperback version of Coraline. This is actually not the cover that I ordered. I ordered something different, but I actually like this one more, so I was kind of excited when it showed up. It was like a fun surprise. Then I got Mirage by Somaya Dowd, which was the Owl Crate book of the month for September. Then I got a couple of classics. So I have Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and this is part of the Puffin V&A Classics collection. I also got this beautiful new edition of Anne of Green Gables, and I really love this cover. I think it's so beautiful, and then especially the spine. I love how it has the little hat on the spine. It's precious. I also got the Articus Books new edition of The Prince and the Pauper. I've actually never seen a pretty edition of this book, but I thought it was very cute, so I picked it up. And I got the Barnes & Noble leather-bound classic that just came out of The Phantom of the Opera and Other Classic Tales. I think this is a really gorgeous cover. I love the gold gilded pages, and then that is our back there. These are always just so gorgeously done. Like, I love these books so much. Two more books were hiding. I also got Night Flyers by George R.R. Martin. This is a sci-fi novel that he wrote like quite a while ago, but it's being turned into a television series on Sci-Fi, and I'm actually trying to go to the panel at New York Comic Con to see the premiere of it. Sounds like it's going to be really good. I'm very excited to read it. I also got Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones because I had books 1 and 3 of the House of Moving Castle series, but I was missing book 2, so now I have it. Scholastic was also kind enough to send me a copy of Imposters by Scott Westerfeld. This is the new book in the Uglies series. So this is actually a new spin-off series that takes place in the same world as the Uglies, but it's its own like new story. Supposedly it is full of twists, turns, rebellions, and intrigue. So it sounds like it's gonna be really good. And lastly, I have some comics and graphic novels to show you. The first graphic novel being Over the Garden Wall Volume 5. Over the Garden Wall is my favorite thing in the world, and I'm really excited that they're making comics of it, and I really need to catch up on them because I've only read the first like 2 volumes, so I'm hoping to do that very soon. But if you have not watched the series on Hulu, do it, because you can watch the entire thing in like an hour and a half. It's so good. They're like 10-minute episodes. They're amazing. I also got this manga called Dragon Goes House Hunting Volume 1. I just think it looks so cool. It's like this dragon who's not very violent and doesn't fit in with his dragon family, and he just wants to live in a safe place. So he's going out and looking for a house where he can kind of be left alone, and I just want to give him a hug. Then I have the 9th volume of The Ancient Magus Bride. This is another series that I actually have to catch up on. I really loved what I've read of it so far, but I'm kind of far behind, so I need to make this a priority. It is a beautiful fantasy story. It's very like subtly fantastical, and it's just really beautiful and very in touch with nature, and it's very like old, like kind of old soul fantasy. I also picked up Crystal Fighters by Jen and Tyler Bartel. I have no idea what this is about, but I will read anything that Jen Bartel puts out because her artwork is gorgeous, and also the cover is like super sparkly. And last but most certainly not least, I got the new edition, the Eternal edition of Sailor Moon Volume 1, which includes volumes 1 and 2 of the Sailor Moon manga. This is like very oversized, super beautiful. It looks a lot more similar to what was released in Japan. There, like everything is just like full page, like gorgeous, but especially the full, like when there's color illustrations, they're super gorgeous, super worth it. There are a couple more of these that are going to be published. I believe that they're going to be doing the entire series. I'm excited. That's it. Those are all the books that I got in September. I hope that you enjoyed this haul. I still have to film more videos and my voice is going, so this is fun. But anyway, let me know if you've read anything that I mentioned. Let me know if you are excited to read anything, if you're going to pick anything up, if I maybe introduced you to something new. And that's all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!